What's up, guys? So I just wanted to touch on something I was thinking about. One of the first things that happens when you start arm wrestling, because what I'm thinking about right now is the development of your hand versus your arm. Right, the hand takes longer, and it's more valuable. It's more valuable because it takes longer to develop. It also retains its strength in these smaller muscles easier and for a longer period of time than the upper arm and the arm angle kind of work. One of the first things that you're going to feel as a young person and as someone that's new to arm wrestling is most likely that the professionals, that the experienced people have a tremendous amount of side pressure. You don't know what any of the terms mean, back pressure, post, regrip, you don't know what any of this is, but you still are immediately able to recognize what you feel and the strength that they have and that they're using against you with the term side pressure. And I won't get into all the different things that they're trying to do to help you, what they should do, although I could make a video on that. What happens is you assess what's going on from your pulling on the table, which is intelligent. That's good. You should do that. And then you take that and you go, okay, what can I work on now that I'm not arm wrestling, and push through the pain that I now feel in my joints to get stronger so that I can have the strength that I feel that they have already. Now, I really don't think there's any way to just know this off the start. But the biggest problem you're going to run into with thinking this way, if you do run into a problem, is that you're going to be too short-sighted. So if you're too short-sighted, then you'll think side pressure's it. I'll do a little cupping. Sorry, I love you, Dave JP. Side pressure's king. I'll do some cupping, some hand work. That's why it'll take 10 years, and then in 15, 16 years, I'll be world champion. Hey, it works for some people. The problem is, how long do you want to be in the sport, okay? And which means how long do you want to be able to arm wrestle, how long do you want to be able to compete, whatever. And then, how healthy do you want to be? Meaning, in your elbows, in your joints, your tools, okay? The hand, the arm, the shoulder. That's basically your tools in arm wrestling. A little bit of back, a little bit of trap, right? For me, that is defined as pain-free. If I can be pain-free, I understand I can, pull a ligament. You can do things that are just going to hurt, but those can also be fixed. To me, the best goal is pain-free. And so far, just 2 years in for myself, that's what I am. I am pain-free. And I continue to pull with people much stronger than I am and get slammed around and have to deal with people's side pressure that is vastly superior to mine. And I continue to invest in my hand. Now, I'm going to say that the number one thing that's going to help, probably in most anything that you don't fully understand in life, whether that's a sport or a job, whatever it is, you're going to have to look. This YouTube makes this really easy if they have a channel on there they're already talking, because at that point it's just like, well, there's so much information, who do I listen to? You have to look at who is trying the hardest. What's that mean? That means that throughout the course of how long they have been exposed to what it is that they are good at, that you are looking at them for, they have never stopped trying. If they've never stopped trying, to me, that's what really trying is. Now, in arm wrestling, that's literally Devin Larratt. I know I talk about him a lot. There are many others. But the reason I reference Devin as opposed to some of these other great athletes in the sport is Devin's catastrophic fall from his number one in the world super heavyweight spot and his 2 elbow surgeries on the right, elbow surgery on the left. Took all this bone out. He lost all his stability. What was his path back? Okay. Now, first of all, was it his hand or was it his arm? Because he has a lot of experience, decades, and knowledge before this surgery happened where he basically had to start over with his arm, but he still had his hand. And the results of that, with his lack of stability and inability to train side pressure, and immediately a very open style post, is very similar to some of us weaker young people that start arm wrestling with people that are stronger than us in the side-to-side lanes. And so what I looked at was, how did he get back? And it seemed like he was able to get his bones to bind. If he had everything he needed and had his shoulder all the way forward, really carved in, all the way inside, as far in as you can go. And he seemed to be pretty good in the strap, that anchor, that drag with his cupping, it's about as far outside as you can go, right? Now, he's had stem cells recently, but even before that, even last year, even before his match where he actually beat Michael Todd, 2021, I think it was. Before that even, it was clear to me that he was regaining some of his stability and his strength to be able to depend on his joints, on his elbows. And I think that he could potentially become pain-free, except for his conditions such as arthritis, right? He obviously promotes the circuited workouts and the blood flow stuff and feeling good and feeding the muscles and rehabbing the tendons through movement and mimicking arm wrestling as close as possible from the table to the weights and back. What I'm going to say is, this is my assessment so far. I did 2 arm workouts. I've been a King's mover for, well, basically the entire time I've been in the sport. 2 years. That's all I really had. I was pretty good with the press. I've been working on that, like Devin had in his videos, his circuit videos. So I had a press, as long as they weren't able to take me outside of my shoulder. I could press very strong, and I King's moved. Whether that was more of a King's hook, or whether that was, full give things away, rise pronate. Whichever, I was good on both ends, right? Anything in the middle, oh no. Try and stand up, maybe something, right? So, a few months ago now, I thought, I gotta do something to train my arm, just to try it. I don't believe in bicep curls. I know for a fact, just from putting some more muscle on my shoulders and traps, that the more muscle you add to something in its normal range of motion, when you go onto the arm wrestling table, that muscle will then become pumped very quickly, and thus fatigue sets in. I'm not interested in fatigue. So I know that if I train my bicep in bodybuilding kind of way, in a traditional way and method, that I will have more muscle mass. I will spend a lot of time with a fully supinated grip, and that I will be taking the muscle fibers through their full range. None of those help in my arm wrestling. I'm not interested in that in the slightest. So what I did was I did a series of statics, right? Bent over so that the weight is trying to open my arm. And I did as heavy as possible. I think I did them 4 or 5 days apart to absolute max for 50 reps. And I think I got 30 or 40 pounds. I went to arm wrestling practice that week. Didn't King's move. I stayed up. Now, granted, I'm standing up, but it was very open. But it's like I was feeling the bicep fire. And it wasn't getting pumped or anything. I found my arm's connection. For 6 or 7 weeks, and I probably did 6 workouts like that in that time, I did not King's move again. The week after that, I tried some King's moving by choice, and I realized my King's move actually tightened up, and so the connection was even better in it, and it got a lot better, a lot stronger, which was really cool for me, because in my thinking, my little experiment, I thought I was going to have to sacrifice. I thought my arm was going to be strong in different ranges. So I thought by working all this close stuff and pulling to my center, which I never did, I thought doing all of that was going to just make these outer perimeters for the range of motion, the end of the range, weaker because it hadn't been used, hadn't been trained. I found that was not the case. I found that everything got tighter, so that when I was strong here, if it wore out, I was strong here, and if that wore out, I was strong here, and everything's just tight through the tendons. And then the King's, my King's move is not opening up much past there, and my riser's untouchable, and then any fatigue on my opponent at all, and I'm taking their wrist. So that was really cool. What did I learn from that? The arm, and I've heard some guys in our group say this before, the bicep, the upper arm, your arm angle, it's way easier to train than your hand. Well, I had basically only done my hand in pronation, freestanding pronation, for 1.5 years, 2 years. So here's the statement, right? If you can work on your hand for 5 years, your hand will be really good, but you'll be a King's mover. And you can work on your arm for 1 year, 2 years, and maybe be at a world level, but not have any access to your power because of your weak hand. So what I'm suggesting is 2 or 3 years working on your hand, and like 3 to 6 months on your arm, and be untouchable, and then do it again. Right, so somehow I need to equate on paper, my little notebook, to the gym stuff, the lifts, to the arm wrestling. Let's see, 3 to 6 months. So let's say that's 1 to 2 parts. If a year is 4 parts, 2-3 years, which is 12 parts. So let's say 10%, 10 to 12% of your time in the gym should be spent on your arm angle. It's crazy to me that I have to consciously do anything for my arm angle, because to train my riser, right, with the belt, it's pulling my arm down. But I found that if I just drop the riser slightly, it pulls on that bicep a lot more. And I always have that riser fully engaged, right? Or I'm doing the full range of motion of riser rehabs with it, right? So I've been working my riser thinking, I'm hitting the arm too. Nope. You have to actually lower the contact point for where it's pulling your arm open, and then you have to either pronate or supinate, is do one of these somewhere in here or both, and regardless of where the pressure is coming from, high or low or side or the other side, you have to then supinate and pronate and let it try and pull your arm open the entire time, right? And never open. I'm not doing any full range stuff. If I did, it would be very limited in range of motion. It would literally be from starting position towards my heart. Starting position towards my heart. Starting position towards my heart. I don't know that that would be of any help, because it's not what you do in arm wrestling. And what you have in arm wrestling is a static strength that is set up skillfully to exploit weakness to then advance position towards dominance in either submission or an obvious end, right? That's technical excellence. So I'm learning how little arm wrestling is your arm and how much it is your hand. Now here's the other thing. When you're in a tournament setting, a competitive setting, and you're willing to hurt yourself to win, if you get beaten by me or by a king's move, king's hook especially, or you can't pin me, chances are your wrist will be hurting you. Your wrist will hurt, because you're going at it with your arm, even though your hand's not really there, and the adrenaline. Oh, it's so close. No, it's not. It's not close. But the other thing is you probably will beat me with your side pressure and your elbow and whatever, and you're icing your arm. What are you doing? I don't know. All your side pressure is blowing through my arm. Eventually, my hand will be, because of the pronation, will be so good that I will take your hand completely before you can pin me with your side pressure. And so even without an arm, it's possible, I believe, to beat these side pressure guys that have a little bit of cupping. But even if you can't, it doesn't take much to develop your arm. It takes a lot more to develop your hand. So that's what you should focus on. Focus on the hand. Focus on excellence with your rise, with your cup to your center, with your roll, and with your supinating into the press, right? Supination. You focus on those, and then just how about just every 2 or 3 weeks, do a little bit of heavy arm stuff, or a static. You kind of move around. Static angle, but movement through the shoulder and the ranges, pronation and supination wise, for 2 or 3 minutes. And then mimic that on the table in a more accurate angle in the strap for just boom, right? Boom. Boom. And just hold that. Do a burnout. Thanks, Aiden. Do a burnout like that. And have that teach your body what it feels like to pose and to have back pressure and to do these things with your arm and stand up and arm wrestle like a man, right? And then when you go to the weights, you can fiddle and fool around. And what kind of angle do I need here? How far do I need to bend over for this? And do I need a cable for that? And that's what it felt like when I pulled this guy. That's what it felt like when I did this burnout. That's what I need. There we go, do my reps here. So that part's easy. The balance is what's been difficult, and I hadn't done any arm stuff, so I'll start incorporating that now. There's only 52 weeks in a year, and if you only pull once or twice a week, that's good for experimentation because you have enough time to rest, so you don't have enough injuries and tweaks and things built up as variables. But 52 weeks a year is not a lot of time to just change one thing a week and go, okay, what did this help? Nothing. Move on. Drop it. Okay, a week with it dropped, better or worse? Worse. Okay. Bring some variation of that back in. Better, a whole week, that's a lot. But to get accurate results, those first 5 years, in my opinion, I've heard this before, the first 5 years are the most important for figuring out what it is you're going to have to do with the weights when you get serious, or when you go pro, or whatever, whatever level you can attain. So, yeah. Just off the top of my head there tonight, before I go work out, I think the hand is far more important, but I think that the arm will catch up in a hurry. Will catch up in a hurry. And I think the ratio is roughly 12 to 1 to 12 to 3, somewhere in there. So, yeah. And I don't think you can train your arm. Although the way I've done it, I have no soreness from it, and I can keep progressing even though I find a max. I don't know that you can sustain a lot of training for the upper arm as you can for the forearm and the hand, because they recover so quickly, right? Anyway, I hope my thoughts help you. If not, this is great for me. I'm gonna enjoy rewatching this to help me think through things. Let's see if I got anything today, guys. I don't know. Stay after it and find truth in arm wrestling, yeah? Good night.